Perron family's haunted farmhouse. Ed and Lorraine investigated the Perron family's farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, which was allegedly haunted by evil spirits. The Perron family, including Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 daughters, moved into a farmhouse in Harrisville in 1971, where they claimed to experience a series of paranormal events. The family reported seeing apparitions, hearing strange noises, and experiencing poltergeist activity, including objects moving and beds levitating. On August 22, 1973, Ed and Lorraine captured footage of Carolyn Perron, the family matriarch, allegedly becoming possessed by an evil spirit. The footage shows Carolyn's eyes rolling back, her voice changing, and her body contorting in unnatural ways. Andrea Perron, the oldest of the Perron children, said, "These were spirits who had an attachment to the property. 8 generations of one extended family had lived and passed at the farm, and some of them had never left. My mother did historical research and found that virtually every entity we were able to name had, as living beings, either passed by their own hand or passed so traumatic a passing and so sudden a passing that they actually didn't seem to know that they were even gone." The Perron family's experiences, along with the Warrens' investigation, served as the basis for the 2013 film The Conjuring, which dramatized the events, of course. Now, in real life, the Warrens' investigation of the Harrisville case came to an end when Roger Perron ordered them to get the heck out of the house after a very dramatic seance in which Carolyn began speaking a strange language and levitated out of her chair. Andrea Perron said the only time she was ever truly frightened was during the seance, and went on to continue to say that there are no words to adequately express that event. In the years following their investigations in Harrisville, the Warrens would look into many more alleged hauntings, but Ed said that he never forgot the time they spent with that family. Next up, we have the elusive White Lady of Union Graveyard. The White Lady is said to be the ghost of a woman named Elizabeth, who passed under very mysterious circumstances in the late 19th century. According to legend, Elizabeth was unalived by her husband, and her spirit has been seen wandering the cemetery dressed in a very long white gown. However, some believe she is actually Harriet Seeley, whose young son passed shortly after being born, and Harriet herself passing soon after. This legend believes she may have passed in hopes of finding her son and still wanders their final resting place searching him out. Now, others believe she is actually the ghost of a woman from the 1940s who unalived her husband and later herself and is doomed to wander the graveyard. So it's possible that she's these 3 different women. However, one thing that's for sure is that her physical description is the one thing that remains consistent. She is a young woman wearing a white dress with dark hair. Many who have witnessed her believe they have almost hit her with their vehicle, only to find no trace of her once they actually pull over. Others claim they have often seen her hovering slightly above the ground around the cemetery, going back and forth amongst different gravestones. Union Cemetery is actually located in Easton, Connecticut, and the Warrens investigated the cemetery in the 1970s and captured several photographs of her. Lorraine used to often take walks through the cemetery, saying that it was one of the most haunted places around. Ed and Lorraine believed the White Lady was a residual haunting imprinted on the location by the traumatic events surrounding the passing. Now, they compiled their findings into a 1992 book called Graveyard: True Hauntings from an Old New England Cemetery. Ed Warren, who also investigated the Amityville whorehouse, reportedly caught the White Lady in photographs as well as videos. Now, Lorraine Warren told NBC Connecticut in 2008 that the video evidence is so valuable she kept it locked away at their occult museum. The Smurl haunting. The general story of the Smurls is a familiar one about parents trying to find stability and just do what's best for their family. After they were displaced by Hurricane Agnes in 1972, Janet and Jack Smurl moved their family to the West Pittston home, and not long after, they claimed to have experienced uncanny incidents. Items would disappear, doors would open and close, toilets would flush, they'd lose sleep over growling noises and just horrific stenches. Now, over the years, the Smurls said that the paranormal attacks worsened. Jack claimed to have actually been SA'd by a spirit, and the entities attacked the children even the family dog. Eventually, after the Catholic Church kind of slow walked an investigation, the Smurls decided to go to the press, which created a media frenzy. Now, writing about the sensation for a 2016 Halloween story in Pittston Progress, reporter Jack Smiles actually summarized the immense media attention. After the Smurls went public with their, descriptions of what was happening in their modest half-double home on Chase Street in West Pittston, their story became a media phenomenon, going viral the old-fashioned way through print and television. Now, local and out-of-town stations and papers covered it widely. Wire Service's stories ran in major dailies from New York to California, and in 1974, the Warrens investigated the Smurl family's home in West Pittston, which again was allegedly haunted by malevolent spirits. Now, the investigation was documented on audio and videotapes. On January 8th, 1975, Ed and Lorraine actually captured footage of a very mysterious, unexplained event during their investigation. The footage shows a strange glowing light moving around the Smurls' living room. The light is accompanied by unexplained noises and movements, and the footage was deemed actually too intense and too disturbing for public consumption. Ed Warren reportedly described the footage as one of the most frightening things that he's ever seen. In June 2017, Jack Smurl actually passed away. His family's history and story earned him rather lengthy bits in the local papers. Looking back, on the period of their lives that earned them international attention, Karen Smurl said of her father in the Citizen's Voice, "We had such a hard time and nobody to turn to. He was happy I was a voice out there for people who need help." Lastly, we have the Annabelle doll. Most of the movies set in the Conjuring universe, including Annabelle, are interestingly inspired by true events. The Conjuring movies are based on the case files of famed demonologist couple Ed and Lorraine Warren, who looked into numerous paranormal incidents, including the controversial true story of the Amityville haunting. One particular case, the Annabelle doll, has been the subject of 3 movies. All 3 films deal with a different event in the doll's timeline. So the Conjuring universe begins with the first movie, which focuses on Ed and Lorraine Warren investigating the paranormal case. Now, this follows the Warrens' investigation of the Annabelle doll featured in the movie. The doll actually received its own spin-off trilogy, which explored Annabelle's origin and the negative events that occurred when the Warrens took her. Since the franchise stretches the doll's story into 3 movies, the writers took creative liberties. Now, most of the films are fictionalized, however, small portions of the trilogy have come from the true story of Annabelle. The legend has it that a student nurse named Donna received the Annabelle doll as a gift from her mother in 1968. Donna and her roommate Angie began to notice strange paranormal occurrences. It would change positions unexpectedly, show up in different rooms of their apartment. The doll would also leave notes for the girls with messages like "help me" scribbled on them. They became very alarmed when they found red liquid dripping from the doll. Donna and her friend Angie had a medium take a look at it. The medium determined that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins. Now, the girls contacted the Warrens, who concluded that the spirit haunting the doll was not a 7-year-old child. Instead, it was actually a demon who had fooled the girls. Now, the Warrens believed that the demon's goal was to acquire Donna's soul. The Warrens solved their problem by taking the doll with them, but they encountered continuous car trouble on the way back to their home. Now, the demon within the doll rejected an exorcism, and in the end, it was actually put in a glass case in the Warrens Occult Museum in Connecticut. However, in 2014, the museum started facing legal issues because it operated as a commercial property in a residential zone. The museum officially shut down to the public in 2019 after the passing of Lorraine Warren, raising questions about the current location of Annabelle. As of 2023, the doll is still located in the Warrens' collection at the house where the museum used to operate. Personally, the Smurl haunting is the one that sends chills up my spine for me, but which one freaks you out the most? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host Ashley, and until next time, stay scared. Starting with the battered VHS tape, this story comes from a person on Reddit who claims that the story is true. It starts by them saying that one time in the mid to late 90s, they had a famous relative who would get a lot of fan mail, most of which was just photographs of their dogs, friendship pendants, etc. Not super weird stuff, but some a little creepy and almost stalkerish. Like, they said one day a padded envelope arrived and in it was a battered home movie tape with a handwritten label on it. Now, they said they never heard of the title, but considered themselves to be a movie buff, so thought that they would just give it a go. They said a few days later they were alone in the house for the night and they thought, what better time to watch this movie? So they locked the doors, got a blanket, made some popcorn, even their stuffed teddy, and pressed play. They said what followed was one of the most terrifying and traumatic experiences of their life.
Just so we all have the same context going into this, the White Lady is the name of the ghost that haunts the Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut. Most locals believe her to be the ghost of Harriet Seeley, whose young son passed shortly after being born, with Harriet herself passing soon afterwards. Legend believes she may have died in hopes of finding her son and still wanders their final resting place searching him out. Whereas other folks believe the White Lady is the ghost of a woman from the 1940s who, well, she killed her husband and later took her own life and is now doomed to wander the graveyard. Her physical description is the one thing that remains consistent. She is a young woman wearing a white dress with, well, dark hair. Many who have witnessed her believe they have almost hit her with their vehicle, only to find no trace of her once they pull over. Others claim they have often seen her hovering slightly above the ground around the cemetery, going back and forth amongst different gravestones. So Ed Warren was obsessed with her, and he went on record a lot of times being like, I am determined to capture footage of this elusive lady. And allegedly he was able to do so, but then he kept the tape for himself. He hoarded it like it held the secrets to the universe, like it was proof of alien life. Now, ever since the passing of both Ed and Lorraine, their son-in-law, Tony Spera, has released the footage in its entirety to YouTube, and the tape shows an apparent white human figure moving behind some tombstones. And similar to most UFO footage, most Bigfoot footage, Loch Ness Monster, etc., the figure is at that perfect distance and resolution so you can see a shape, but you can't ID anything. Well, enter a woman named Judith Penny, who helped Ed allegedly maintain his reputation by faking this. So when he claimed to have captured the White Lady on tape in the summer of 1990, after allegedly camping out in the graveyard for a week, allegedly Judith was the mystical being spotted on tape, masking herself with a classic white sheet. Well, this next video is blurred on YouTube to protect the identity of the poor girl. I personally think it's up there as one of the most frightening things I've ever seen. At an hour and 20 minutes long, it depicts a Catholic bishop in Connecticut attempting to converse with a demonic entity that has possessed the body of an innocent young woman, while her family restrains her. Ed and Lorraine were the ones to alert the church to the possession after meeting this young girl during an audience chat session that was held at the conclusion of one of their public presentations. During portions of the exorcism, when prayer is done, you can hear the demon acting wildly, and it originally refuses to give its name, both of which are quite common in cases of demonic possession. Eventually, we learn that there are not one, not two, but 4 demons possessing our victim, with one of them identifying themselves as Robert, a name associated with the son of Satan. So this footage was unreleased until after the passing of Ed and Lorraine, and it's believed they were told by the Catholic Church to specifically keep it under wraps. But their son-in-law doesn't have the same fear or respect for the church, depending on how you look at things, so I guess we have Tony Spera to thank. This next video is from 2014, and it's a ritual that was captured on camera by a man who heard the shrieks of a woman inside a sanctuary and filmed it through a peephole. This incident occurred at the Assumption of the Virgin Mary Church in Paranormal and Digi in February of 2014, and the church's priest, Marek Dunda, confirmed the video is real. But he's like, if there's something filmed through a keyhole, there's nothing more to say about it. Which, like, okay, good at dodging the question, I guess. So obviously, because of the nature of the video, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening, but it appears that at least 2 people surround the woman, who can be heard screaming in absolute agony with momentary pauses in between the duration of the just under 2-minute long video. Daniel Trachta, who captured the video after hearing the screams, warns people in the description to watch the chilling footage while wearing headphones. When asked about the condition of the woman in the video, the priest said any details about her or her state were private. And don't get me wrong, while I'm glad the church is protecting her privacy, I just hope she was able to find solace and be healed of her demons. On April 5th of 1991, 2020 featured a segment that showed an actual Roman Catholic ritual of casting out demons. Videotaped at a nun's home in the suburban Palm Beach County, the segment shows the affected girl, referred to only as Gina, as she thrashes under the effect of ancient prayers. She's sprinkled with holy water, and you've got that classic cross pressed to the head. Obviously, because she's possessed, she's retching, she's writhing, she's yowling, she's baring her teeth. She's saying, "Get me out of here, me not want to leave." She's shrieking at the priest, and she even snaps her bonds. If the exorcism team hadn't tied her down, she might have actually levitated to the ceiling. At the time, the March 25th issue of US News and World Report carried no fewer than 5 articles on hell and the devil. Because apparently at the time, it was like more than the heyday of the 1950s when it came to demonic stuff. And another poll released in the same year said that 55% of Americans believe in the devil and in demonic possession. So how does that tie into this? Well, we're talking about exorcisms, right? Speaking of which, the main exorcist in this report is only known as Father A. And going back to the sisters involved, we've got Lois Schaefer and the Reverend Walton Dockerow. And they took part in this, even though, technically off the record. Palm Beach Bishop J. Keith Simmons, who permitted the taping, issued only a little statement saying the devil really exists. He was powerful and active at work in the world today, as through the centuries, which echoes a lot of other cardinals. And it was Cardinal John O'Connor's remark that there can be no question about the reality of the devil that initially drew the interest of the TV show for this exorcism. Eventually, after that, the church got so many requests from around the country to investigate cases of possession that they had to be like, we need somebody. Well, this fell to Reverend James LaBarre, a specialist in the occult, who looked into the initial claims and was like, okay, well, for starters, Gina was genuinely being tormented. According to the report, she was experiencing crazy psychotic episodes, visions of demons, dead people. The mom tried everything. She tried a spiritualist. She tried hospitals. You name it, she tried it. In the footage that we have today, at the time, the priest said she was being controlled by 10 spirits. So they met all the violent reactions by following the prayers and gestures of the rite. Apparently, this whole ordeal took like 6 hours, and apparently that's not uncommon for exorcism lengths. Before the procedure even began, Father A was like, yeah, it's terrifying. I could die tomorrow, I could be attacked, I could be taken over, which is it worth it, pal? Evil spirits like to take their time leaving a body, and not without a fight. And that leaves everybody drained, exhausted, and vulnerable. Also quoted is Dr. Warren Schlanger of Miami Children's Hospital. Also quoted is a doctor of a local hospital where Gina was treated before and after the exorcism, and she's like, yeah. And he said, even I don't know. Father A was troubled. He was believing that after this exorcism, the devil was disturbing his sleep, attempting to weaken and destroy him. But he said, hey, that's a price I gotta pay. I'm a church man against demons. American professional boxer Ryan Garcia recently alleged that Bohemian Grove, a place rumored to exist in the north of San Francisco, is not only real, but it's a place where he's seen some heinous stuff. Be careful watching, folks. This was during an X-Space interview with Andrew Tate earlier this year, and there was a video that actually went viral that shows an alleged satanic ritual. It was reportedly taken in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist Alex Jones because he was actually able to infiltrate Bohemian Grove about a couple of times after being denied a bazillion. And while the visual is obviously hazy, the audio is a little unclear, you can see some kind of ritual. We got like fireworks, we've got cloaked priests, which that checks a couple of my boxes for a satanic ritual. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience went viral because he's like, hey, yeah, when I trespassed, I saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, which only further fuels the alleged satanic speculation. Well, the official Bohemian Club website is like, hey, we don't do anything secret or illegal or this doesn't exist. We all know better. There was actually an article in the Washington Post that revealed that members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly in the 1940s.
Number 5. The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a 2013 horror film directed by James Wan, written by Chad and Carrie Hayes. It is the first film in the Conjuring universe franchise and also based on real events surrounding the Perron family's demonic experiences. Ed was a World War II vet and a former police officer who became a self-professed demonologist. Lorraine, a self-claimed clairvoyant, making them the best demonic duo out there. In 1952, Ed and Lorraine founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. They quickly gained notoriety as respected investigators after this case. The Perrons. In 1971, the Perron family moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Rhode Island where Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice odd things happening almost immediately. First, missing items, salt shaker, broom, then some ghostly sightings. Then, well, you'll see. It was discovered that the home had experienced some previous sinister owners, self-immolation, deadly accidents, and of course, murder in the attic. One violent and destructive spirit named Bathsheba. Quote, whoever the spirit was, she perceived herself to be the mistress of this house, and she resented the competition of my mother posed for that position. Andrea Perron, the oldest daughter. Bathsheba Sherman, who lived on the Perrons' property circa 1800s, was rumored to have been a Satanist and involved in the murder of a neighbor. According to the oldest daughter, Andrea, there were numerous spirits that lived on the premises. The smell of rotten meat, beds levitating, and of course, the dirt-covered, abysmally cold basement. The Perrons asked the Warrens to come in more than 10 separate times on 10 separate occasions to help out their ghost problem. Lorraine conducted a seance to attempt to contact the spirits that were possessing them, to which during the seance, Carolyn Perrin was possessed. The family swear that she was speaking in tongues and even rising from the ground, sitting in a chair. Andrea said, "My mother began to speak a language not of this world in a voice not of her own. Then her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room." Yeah, that's all the ingredients you need for an amazing horror movie universe to me. Terrifying. Number 4, Annabelle. The infamous Annabelle. We know her. The most haunted doll on Earth. First appearing in The Conjuring in 2013, then Annabelle Creation, then Annabelle Comes Home. I'm just waiting for part 4. Annabelle vs. Anderson Silva, UFC 279 live from Las Vegas. Yo, I'm straight up punting a haunted doll if it runs up on me, I'll tell you that for free. The film was inspired by the story of a doll named Annabelle, told by Ed and Lorraine Warren after obtaining and ridding its evil from its toy-like body. The doll is apparently responsible for 2 near-death experiences, 1 fatal accident, and a string of demonic activity. The doll's origins come from a gift to a young nurse named Donna from her mother for her 28th birthday. Donna brought it back to her apartment she shared with a roommate. Pretty normal Raggedy Ann doll. Then the two began to notice she'd move around on her own. They even started finding notes left around saying, "Help me," written on parchment paper, which they had no clue to even where to buy that or find that. Before long, they called in some help from a medium who insisted that the doll was harboring a spirit who had lived and perished on the grounds prior to their building being built. Medium called the priest called his father called Ed and Lorraine. So yeah, this thing is like haunted. You know when priests are like, oh god, no! Yeah, that's usually not a really good sign. Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll, it was looking to possess a human host. Thank the gods, Ed and Lorraine locked her up in the occult museum where she lays to this day. Just waiting. Number 3, The Haunting in Connecticut. The Haunting in Connecticut is the first of the Warren universe of horror and is based on all real cases and points. A 2009 gem, it accounts the horrific paranormal case of the Snedekers, who moved into a ghost-infested house in Southington, Connecticut. Carmen and Alan Snedeker, their 3 sons, their daughter, and 2 nieces, all unwillingly now pray for the other side. The eldest Snedeker son unfortunately was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and the family moved to Connecticut to be closer to the doctors. What they weren't initially aware of was that the home they were renting was once a funeral parlor. Yeah, tools and bloody furniture just lay as they once did, untouched. Mom notices items going missing. That's just the start. The children start to see strange people in their home at night, specifically a man with long black hair. Their son's drastic personality change, which included violent outbursts and attacks on his family, was then diagnosed with schizophrenia. No one was convinced, though. It was agreed that maybe he was becoming a victim to the house's grim history after all. After weeks in the home to get the full demonic experience, the Warrens came to the conclusion that the morticians that worked on the home previously had practiced some abysmally sinister acts on the lifeless bodies, deepening the home in a twisted, dark origin. After Ed and Lorraine were called in to clean it up, an exorcism or 2, and the house finally became a home again. The case can be reimagined in 2009's Haunting in Connecticut, where the story follows the truth the Snedekers experienced all those years ago. It's pretty scary, yeah. Number 2, The Nun. The 2018 spin-off film and prequel to The Conjuring 2. A demon nun channeling an evil spirit named Valak. The Nun serves as an origin story of sorts within the Warren universe. Sister Irene and priest Father Burke travel to investigate a monastery in 1952 Romania after the Vatican learns of an accident and summons the father to investigate. According to the Lesser Key of Solomon from the 17th century, Valak is the Grand President of Hell. Valak's look in both films were inspired by an experience Lorraine had shortly after investigating the Amityville horror house in 1976. Lorraine was at home in her bed reading when she felt a presence. She saw a black whirlwind of dark mass enter the room. It was like a vortex. Lorraine prayed to be released from the forces of evil. She told it, "Leave and go back where you came from," over and over again. It vanished, but she never forgot. And cue scary movie. Yeah, apparently while investigating the once very haunted Borley Rectory, the most haunted spot in the UK, Lorraine had a run-in with a sinister nun. They ended up coming face to face with the churchyard's ghost, who was, according to lore, a nun buried alive behind the brick walls of the convent centuries ago after having an affair. Apparently, Ed took photos on his camera of the Borley Rectory ghosts as they encountered them. Quote, "It was pitch black and there were no lit candles or lights. Photographers snapped photos on a 35mm camera with infrared film. When they developed the images, what appeared to be a spectral nun was seen walking down the aisle praying." And number 1. Part 2. The Conjuring. The devil made me do it. Sounds like a lame Satanist excuse, doesn't it? Actually, now a term of phrase pleaded before a court of law. Yeah, who knew? Could possession under demonic circumstances prove innocence over acts performed while under? This is the 8th installment of the Conjuring universe. The plot is as follows. It's 1981. Ed and Lorraine documented the exorcism of 8-year-old David Glatzel, attended by his family, his sister Debbie, her boyfriend Arn Johnson, and Father Gordon of Connecticut. During the exorcism, Arn invites the demon to enter his body instead of remaining in the boy's. The family, including the Warrens, witnessed the demon transport itself from David's body to Arn's body while he suffers from a heart attack and is taken to the hospital unconscious. Arn and Debbie return home, but Arn is left feeling a little unwell and eventually ends up murdering his landlord, stabbing him 22 times due to this demonic possession. Yeah, sounds pretty terrifying, doesn't it? His case becomes the first American murder trial to claim demonic possession as a defense. Well, sorry to break it to you, but this is literally a play-by-play of the events that actually happened. Yeah. Maybe not shot for shot, movie style, but the script and skeleton was there for sure. Arn was subsequently convicted after a messy murder trial, though he served only 5 years of a 10 to 20 year sentence. The case was huge. It attracted huge media attention and in fact was the first in history of the US claiming the paranormal as a defense. The couple went on to marry each other, and tell their story as the Warren side as well. Books, documentaries, and eventually this huge film universe